Hey Pikmin. Wow, it's been a while, hasn't it? I put up that Everyman Hybrid video, and I recorded that back in like March. So, egg on my face, I guess. I just haven't had time. The last few months have been absolutely crazy. I graduated college. I got my BFA. I would totally show it off on camera, but it's not framed yet. My school didn't frame it. I don't know if that's a thing that schools normally do. I guess I just assumed. So I have to go get that framed. And then once I do, I'll be able to show it off. And I'm very proud to have graduated college, and very happy that that's done now. Because it was a long time in the works. I'll say that. I spent my June, my Pride month, traveling. But not traveling anywhere particularly interesting. I just went to my home state and spent a month there. Why I thought a whole month in suburban Washington state would be a good idea for my mental health? I actually had plans to do like a full scripted sort of academic style video essay have out this month. However, there's a SAG strike going on and a WGA strike going on, and there has been a bit of ambiguity with regards to what is expected of people online who are not in SAG in respecting and going along with that strike, and I've heard some competing information. So out of respect for the people who are currently on strike with the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild of America, I will be putting that on hold. I don't think they care about me specifically. However, just on principle, I'd like to hold off on that. So that'll be coming out when it comes out. And I was throwing around a couple ideas in my head about like what to do while this is going on, with respecting SAG and, you know, everything that they're doing right now. What can I talk about that is still in the lens of media and the sort of stuff that I'm interested in, that isn't infringing on anyone's strike. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to do more of these fun, unscripted videos where I just kind of go off the cuff here, with a little activity that we can do together as a community. And by do together, I mean I do the activity and then you watch it, and then maybe you do it along with me independently, but I don't know about it. And so I thought, oh, video games. Video games are a perfect way to do this. The video game industry is wholly distinct from the film and TV industries. And I really do have a love and a passion for video games. I guess you could consider video games to be kind of my first love. I started with them very, very young. I was about 5 years old when I got a GameCube, and that was my first system. And ever since then, it's just been a lifelong love affair. And, you know, film and theater and TV and Teen Wolf. These things have all just been sort of like my mistresses, or I'm gay, so what's like a male mistress? My slam piece, right? These have all been my various slam pieces that I've accrued and acquired over the years that, you know, I really have a lot of fun with. But when I want to like go home and just relax and unwind and just sort of feel held, I go to Old Reliable, my husband, which is of course the art of video games. Now all of this is of course leading up to today's subject, which is, and y'all, I have fallen in love. Yeah, Nintendo recently re-released the first two Pikmin games, which originally came out on the GameCube in the early 2000s for the Switch, in anticipation of Pikmin 4, the long-awaited Pikmin 4, which is finally releasing, I believe the same day as Barbenheimer. So I'm gonna try and get this out before then. I didn't. And when I was a kid, I was terrified to play Pikmin because I thought I would be really bad at it, and I was always very interested in the world and the characters and, you know, that sort of stuff, but the gameplay just like scared me because I was too anxious to play real-time strategy games. Like it wasn't in the cards for me at that point in my life. When I was 9 years old on YouTube, watching Chugga-Conroy Let's Plays. However, they were, in that sense, kind of foundational for me in that I always had a passing knowledge or even a semi-intimate knowledge of them growing up because I saw other people play them and I was interested in them. What I mean to say is I had a relationship to the series, but it wasn't one that was built on playing the games myself. However, when Nintendo dropped Pikmin and Pikmin 2 on the Switch, I just snatched them up like a snagret. Snagret sounds like a very British slur for a marginalized group of indeterminate identity. Also, I just washed my hair, so if it looks a little flat, or if it's a little unruly, or if I seem like I'm constantly fixing it, that's why. I don't really use product. I don't brush my hair. I just sort of run my fingers through it until I get a shape that I like, which, you know, works most of the time. And so I've spent the last week playing Pikmin non-stop. And when I say it's all I can think about, it's all I can think about. When I'm not playing Pikmin, I'm watching YouTube content about Pikmin.
Stop posting about. I'm tired of seeing it. My friends on TikTok send me. On Discord, it's fucking. I was in a server, right? And all of the channels are just. I showed my
Duracell D battery.
My girlfriend, and the logo, I flipped it, and I said, "Hey, babe, the courage reactor."
I'm watching compilations of Pikmin 4 ads in Times Square and fan animations depicting the battle with man-at-legs.
Oh god! Oh god! Oh god! Oh my god! Oh! Peter, what the hell? Joe, get inside! The blaze is still spinning! Peter, what is that thing? Joe, get inside! Hurry up, my yard! Oh god! No! Oh, Joe! Oh, I am sorry, buddy.
It's okay.
Are you
Look,
okay?
it's okay.
You all right?
It's okay. I'm fine.
Boy.
Everybody's fine.
Oh, that was scary.
And the official Pikmin short films on the official Nintendo YouTube account, which are delightful, right? Like, I can't get enough of Pikmin.
I fucking looked at a trash can, I said, I looked at
Mario.
I think of the astronaut, then I go,
Mario.
more like,
I don't watch video essays about Pikmin though, more so because I just don't really care about other people's opinions about video games. I'm content with my own. I care with, like, you know, movies and TV and stuff like that. Like I'm interested in like hearing people like talk about those, but unless it's like Jacob Geller style, and where he focuses on like one aspect of a game, and like groups in a bunch of like disparate elements from like other games and TV shows and music. I think, has he done music before? Like that sort of style, then I'll watch that. I like that style. But when it's just like talking about a game, like this is why this game is good, this is why this game is bad, I can't be bothered. I really can't. And so I'm thinking to myself, you know, what can I do to satiate this appetite of mine? Because I played Pikmin 1 and I really liked it. I thought it was super fun. I thought it was super cool. Super kind of relaxed, but also stressful at the same time. And you had a real sense of impending dread that never felt so oppressive that you stopped enjoying the experience. And then Pikmin 2, which was amazing. It's probably one of my favorite games I've ever played. It's so fun. It's like everything the first game did, but more and better, and paradoxically more anxiety-inducing and more relaxed at the same time, which is kind of exactly what I wanted. Like I said, I'm thinking to myself, what can I do to monetize this, right? What can I do to monetize this autistic hyperfixation that I have going through my brain? Because I don't know if you guys know anything about autism or ADHD or the way those two things intersect, but when we find a thing that we like it the most. We like it the most, and we can't stop liking it or stop thinking about it until we find something to replace it. And if we don't find something to replace it and it just sort of peters out, then we just get kind of depressed, right? And I don't want to get depressed. I want to keep on going with this. I want to keep on trucking. I don't have the time or the money to invest in Pikmin 3 right now. So I'm instead going to make a video explaining the Pikmin iceberg, which is basically just an excuse to ramble about Pikmin for however long I see fit. I wanted to wear something festive for the Pikmin series to celebrate my love of Pikmin. However, I don't own anything Pikmin related because I only got into it like 9 days ago. I wanted like a little hat or something, and they sell these like $30 red Pikmin hats on Etsy, and they're so cute. And I totally would have worn one, but I wanted to make this video now. So that sweet little red Pikmin hat will just have to live in the halcyon days of my dreams. I want it. I want it so bad. So, what subject is better for rambling about Pikmin than a semi-qualified explanation of the Pikmin iceberg? I have played the first 2 Pikmin games to completion, and I really enjoyed them, and I think I know a decent amount about the series. I haven't played Pikmin 3 in like 10 years because I had it on the Wii U, and the minute it got kind of hard, I stopped because I was 13. Like I said, this series has been an uphill climb for me. So I know a fair amount about Pikmin 3, but not so much. You know, my expertise is mostly on the first 2 games, which I'm very comfortable with. However, there may be times on this iceberg chart where I just won't know what something is or something means, and I'll just make something up. And I won't stop and clarify which ones I know what they are and which ones I don't. If you are familiar with the Pikmin series, you'll probably be able to suss that out. But if you're not, this will just be a fun guessing game about which things are true and which things aren't. It's like gaslighting, but no, it's not. I'd also like to say at the top here that a lot of people are discovering this series for the first time, getting into it for the first time, playing it for the first time just like me, and they don't know as much about it as I did going into it, especially quite a few young people who don't have the benefit of living for as long as I have. So I guess I should also put a spoiler alert that this chart will also probably spoil the events of Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2. So, be warned for that. Spoilers for 2 20-year-old games. Alright, so we have a Pikmin iceberg right here, readily supplied by the people on the r/Pikmin subreddit, a subreddit that I have no experience with at all, right? This one was created by Estragonth Jovial 2 years ago. So it's not a new Pikmin iceberg, but that's okay. This is not a particularly active series, so no new information really has been put out since then, unless you're watching this after Pikmin 4 has come out, in which case, deal with it. I don't know, I just googled Pikmin iceberg. Obviously I didn't make this, but this was the one that looked the nicest to me. It's the only one within the top like 5 results that didn't have that like ugly red font, you know, that icebergs do to juxtapose with the color of snow. But I don't want to look at that for however long this takes. You know, I just don't want to. So we're going to be paying no mind to that. Also, I will be playing Pikmin music in the background of this video for pretty much the entire time to hide the fact that my AC is running because it is the summer and it is very humid out, and I am baking like a clam. And if I don't have the AC on, I'll just die. All right, sublevel 1, this is above the iceberg. If you're not familiar with the iceberg charts, first of all, like, where have you been? And second of all, it's like a meme format with like information on like an iceberg. You'll get it, just follow along. But above the iceberg, so this is the most basic information. The games exist, this is kind of what they're about. You don't even have to play them to understand most of this information. All right, right at the top. Pikmin 1 through 3. These are the first 3 games in the series. The first 2 were released for the GameCube in 2001 to 2004, and the third one was released for the Wii U in 2013. And it was re-released on the Switch in 2020 as Pikmin 3 Deluxe, which had all the DLC included as those deluxe ports on the Switch go. Just another reason not to have a Wii U. I think the only reason left to have a Wii U is for the Zelda remakes. And even then, you can probably just use Dolphin. You didn't hear that from me, though. Pikmin 1 and 2 were also re-released on the Wii in 2008 and 2009, I believe, were the years, as part of the new Play Control series, which reimagined GameCube games with the motion controls of the Wii. I think of the new Play Control games, these probably fared the best, because the motion controls weren't tied to like movement or anything. They were simply for aiming where you got to throw your Pikmin, and because of the free-form movement of the Wii's cursor allowed for deeper control and more intuitive control while also being able to throw them a lot farther. I think the only other one of the new Play Control games that was re-released on the Wii that has aged somewhat gracefully is the Metroid Prime series, but even then, it's like, why wouldn't you just use a controller? Yeah, I played 1 and 2 on the Switch, and they had the motion control option, but I didn't use it. I mean, no shade to people who like it, but like, what's there to like, right? 3 Deluxe, I talked about that. Smash Bros. Olimar has been a character in the Smash series in every installment since Brawl, which was its 3rd installment, which came out in 2008 on the Wii. And in those games, he can use Pikmin to attack, and he also has his own little wimpy attacks. And he's kind of a fun character, although he's not that fun to fight, because you always have Pikmin on you. And so he's like my least favorite to fight in those games. And then in the 2014 game for the Wii U and 3DS, they added Alf as an alternate costume for Olimar. And the reason Alf is an alternate costume and not, you know, Echo Fighter, as they came to be known, is because Lucina and Dr. Mario and Dark Pit were also intended to be alternate costumes, and it was going to be a thing, right? It was going to be Alf and them and the Koopalings, and they were all going to be these alternate costume characters, right? But then there were so many differences they wanted to incorporate with Lucina and Dark Pit, and especially Dr. Mario, which were like holdovers from Melee, that they just put them off into different fighters and then kept them that way. And Alpha is still one of the few alternate costume characters, along with the Koopalings. And I think it's just them. The Pikmin, however, have had a presence in the series since Melee because they had a trophy in Melee that predated the release of Pikmin. That was actually something Nintendo did quite a bit in that game, because they also had Roy, which his inclusion in Melee was actually his first game appearance because his Fire Emblem game hadn't come out yet in Japan, and I don't think it ever came out in the West. But they also had a trophy of the Pikmin, not of Olimar, just of the Pikmin, and talking about the Pikmin as like a little promo in-game for people to be like, oh, what's that? Daddy, will you buy it for me? Mommy, can I get that? And they're like, sure. You know? So yeah, they've had a presence since Melee, but they've been playable since Brawl. Pikmin slavery. Oh boy. So this is, of course, referring to the ethical implications of the way Pikmin are utilized as living creatures to do Olimar and Louie and the presidents and however many other playable characters there are will in the games. And it's like, are they sentient? It's like the same like issue as like Pokemon, basically the issue of consent. Like, are you mind controlling them, or are they like instinctively trusting you and you're just putting them in harm's way for your own benefit? Is that moral? Does it matter? I'm in the camp that it doesn't really matter, because this is fiction and who cares, right? It's a video game. It's not like PETA has to come out here and be like, oh, this is our dark take on Pikmin to protest animal cruelty. Well, guess what? People aren't actually doing this with animals. There are no animal species that can be controlled like this. There is animal cruelty in the world, and there is exploitative use of animals without treating them well or working them to death for the benefit of humans. But this game isn't really about that, and also the Pikmin don't function as animals do in the real world. Like, they can carry you, but they never do. Like, no one uses that, like, lie down thing you get in Pikmin 2. Who's ever used that? No, you haven't. And so, the way it's depicted in Pikmin, kinda like in Pokemon, although I guess there's more of an argument for Pokemon and consent being more of an issue, but with Pikmin, it's just such a non-issue that it's just like, it's so far removed from what animal cruelty actually is in the real world, that it's like, who the hell cares? There are so many other things to get mad about in this world, and you're choosing a pretend person using pretend animals to accomplish his own goals. Pretendly. I don't know, if that's something that upsets you, I would just recommend that you take a look at your priorities, as well as maybe a job application. Nintendo Land. So, of course, Nintendo Land, which was released for the Wii U as a launch title, kind of like the Wii Sports, intended to be the Wii Sports of the Wii U, but of course nobody bought the Wii U, and those who did not play Nintendo Land, so they probably didn't know that there's an entire Pikmin-themed world and costume set in Nintendo Land, and you can basically play sort of a mini Pikmin adventure in Nintendo Land while you also get to tour their other series, you know, like Metroid and Star Fox and Zelda and, you know, that sort of thing. Kid Icarus, because I think that was popping off at the time. Donkey Kong. Essentially, they're a side attraction, and you can also get costume pieces in Nintendo Land, but it's such an unremarkable game. I think the only thing it's remembered for is being the latest, but we also have one last thing to show you at E3 ever. It was just like underwhelming, cartoony fireworks.
Thanks again, and let's finish with one more walk through the theme park that is Nintendo Land. Enjoy.
Like, I would get it if it was like a fireworks show like that Gandalf would put on, but come on, Reggie. You can do better. You've done so much better.
I feel just like a purple Pikmin.
I think they apologized for this, actually. Post-apocalyptic scenario. It is never stated outright, but heavily implied that Pikmin takes place on an Earth that is devoid of humans while still retaining every human-made invention that there could ever be. And it's never stated what kind of apocalyptic scenario this was, whether it was climate change, which is implied in Pikmin 3, or perhaps like radioactive fallout, which caused all the animals to take on these cool new mutations. And that's where the Bulborbs come from, right? And they're basically like a mutated mouse. And Pikmin are like ants that bonded with plants because of the radiation. Either way, it's Earth with no people, but every object in, I guess in the new game, a house, a spotless house, that people that have left behind. I don't know, I guess the most PC answer you can give is that they were raptured, because Pikmin have spirits. You see them go to heaven all the time. I guess everyone was just raptured. They left behind D batteries of a nondescript fictional brand. Shorts. This is what Pikmin wear. I am kidding. This is what the Nintendo channel posts on their YouTube channel about Pikmin. They post little Pikmin animated shorts that are absolutely adorable, and they're just the best thing ever. I love watching them. They're so fun and they're so funny, and it's don't you just get a little dopamine rush whenever you watch these? It's so cute. Come on. Yeah, those are available on YouTube. Arlo is a YouTuber who he's a puppet YouTuber, like like a Muppet, like a Cookie Monster or an Elmo or like a Fozzie Bear. His puppet is a blue Muppet, a two-hander, with one controlling an arm and the other controlling his mouth, right? And he makes media analysis for adults. I'm not gonna lie, his videos kind of make me uncomfortable. It's not that there's anything morally or ethically wrong here. This is just a me problem. I just don't like it. I love the Muppets, and I grew up watching Sesame Street. I have an appreciation for it. And I think the Muppets still hold up. I think they're hysterical. And I do like I do appreciate the idea that the Muppets and the Sesame Street Muppets, they are their own people. Like, you don't think about like the actor playing Kermit. You just think about Kermit. He's his own person. I think Big Bird has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And I think Arlo is the same way. I think Arlo is the name of the puppet. I don't think Arlo is the name of the man. I don't know, it's just not like a thing that I connect with. But anyways, the reason he's on here is because he loves Pikmin, which I appreciate. And he has this whole viral clip of him going, Pikmin, 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 Pikmin. And it's very sweet. Very sweet. So I believe he's made some good quality content about Pikmin. So if you like that and you can enjoy the puppetry of it all, and it doesn't weird you out at all, then his content is for you. Because I have watched his videos, podcast form, and I've really enjoyed them. There's just something about that puppet that it just makes me kind of viscerally uncomfortable. And once again, that is a me thing. As far as I know, he has done nothing to deserve any of the words that I have just said. I don't like it. And that's okay. It's not for everyone. Baskin Robbins, 31 flavors, you know? r/Pikmin is absolutely feral, which it is. You know, they lost all their social skills once, you know, they turned to madness at the length of time between Pikmin games. It's like you're edging this fandom for that long with like maybe teasing information about a new game, and it becomes mimetic, and it's like Clegane Bowl. It's like, when's Clegane Bowl gonna happen? But Clegane Bowl is Pikmin 4, and they think Pikmin 4 is gonna happen, but then it's Hey Pikmin, and no one plays it, and everyone hates it. Just on principle, they hate it. And the ones that did play it also hated it, because I heard it wasn't great. I don't know if it was. But yeah, r/Pikmin. It's basically full of a bunch of like hyper-fixating special interest brain spice folks, such as myself, that just post memes and shit posts and yell at each other about which Pikmin game is the best, which is 2, by the way. 2 is the best. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's all crazy. Bunch of hooligans, that crowd is. Chugga Conroy playthroughs. Now we're getting into the classics. Okay, if you're of my age, or slightly older, or slightly younger, then you probably know who Chugga Conroy is. And if you don't, click away. You are not welcome here. Chugga Conroy, he got his start on YouTube in 2008, I want to say, with a Let's Play of Earthbound. That was pretty much like what Let's Plays were back in the day, which was 10-minute episodes, no face cam, only commentary with game audio, talking about the game and his life every now and again, and making witty jokes, and having a high old fun time on the internet. This was before Facecam, and Let's Plays primarily revolved around Minecraft and horror games, and then evolved into streaming, which is what streaming is now, especially game streaming. But that's where streaming came from. A lot of what the streaming community is now evolved out of the Let's Playing community on YouTube back in the day. And you can absolutely see where the influence is. Now, Chugga Conroy has not stopped. He's still doing the same thing, because like, why would he stop? It's still working for him. It's, you know, never stopped working for him. So, and he's still doing views, and he's still getting subscribers and all that stuff, and he's still got a presence. You know, I grew up watching Chugga Conroy, and I watched all of his Let's Plays up until I don't know, when did I stop? Was it Xenoblade? When did that come out? Was that like 7 years ago? I don't know, these Pikmin Let's Plays were some of his most popular, and they came out like 11 years ago. They were like foundational for so many people, and there were so many people in with the series, because at that point, the series had been dormant for quite some time, right? And here comes Chugga Conroy, and he's been reviving the series left and right. You know, he brought Earthbound basically back to the West with his content, right? And he was one of the first, if not the first, to make that super big over here and revitalize the fandom. And then you have him with Super Mario RPG, and he's digging that shit out of the grave. And all the other Mario RPGs, you know, the Paper Marios and the Mario and Luigi's, and he's exhuming them left and right. And he's doing all his Pokemons. Then he has his Fire Red and his Crystal and his Emerald. And here he is with Mario Sunshine. He did Mario Sunshine and Pikmin. Pikmin is all up in this business, right? And he does his Pikmin Let's Plays, and they're fabulous. Although he does have some takes that I disagree with. However, it also had so many mimetic moments that have just become just mainstays of the fandom.
We're just gonna call him Steve, and we're not going to like him. He threw it. Oh my god, he killed the sharecrop! That was a... No! What the heck? What? What? We're gonna want to head down here, and Olimar alone... Excuse me! I never knew water could be so rude. Look out! I'm on a masochistic killing spree! Flowers! Fear thy, Olimar! Uh-oh. We got 2 reds out there. Let's try to save them. Let's make this a challenge. We have 9 seconds to save their lives. Okay, I don't think we're gonna get both, though, but let's try for 1. Let's see if we can save a life. Oh my god, he's trying to carry... That guy is a trooper. Steve? Steve's a trooper? Oh my god! Steve, you're a freaking trooper. You were staying there, sacrificing your life into the hours of the night to carry back a rotting corpse of a fire-breathing pig. I'll admit, I'm tearing up a little bit right now, guys. Warning, turn your headphones down. Come on, guys. Build, 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 build. Oh, crap. What? 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 No! 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 Are you kidding? They all responded to my whistle! No! No! You gotta be kidding me! No! 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 What? Oh. They're small enough to where you don't have to worry quite as much as... Oh my god, no! Let it be Nirvana. Let it be my Nirvana. Creepy chrysanthemum. Whoa! I really don't want to speak too soon. I think we've gone without setting off what it is I am so afraid of. I just had to open my mouth! I just had to say it! As soon as I finish saying it, you suck! You suck!
He single-handedly put the fear of God in the water wraith for me when I was a small child, and for that he will never cease his penance walk.
Hey, where is he? Oh my god, no! Oh my god! Give me a heart attack. Oh. Game!
Yeah, hot take, the submerged castle is not that hard. Like, once you get past the psychological fear factor, it's basically just like, oh, just do it fast. 4 floors, 5 minutes, you know. Worst comes to worst, make multiple trips. It's not that hard. Hey Pikmin. Hey Pikmin is a game that came out on the 3DS that everyone hated. And everyone was like being like, oh my god, Pikmin 4. They're teasing a new Pikmin. It's gonna be on the 3DS. It's gonna be Pikmin 4. It's gonna finally happen. We've been waiting for a couple of years. Pikmin 3 came out. Everyone loved it. Some people didn't, but whatever. Pikmin 4, it's finally happening. And then it's Hey Pikmin. Everyone hates it on principle. Nobody plays it. The people that do, I don't know what they thought of it. Not researched this at all. But yeah, it came out on the 3DS in 2017, and it had like a weird control scheme, and like common enemies were bosses, and it was like 2D, like I think it was like a side scroller. It was I don't know. It's not what you're looking for in a Pikmin experience. I'll just say that. If you're a fan of the series and you're looking to have some fun with your Pikmin, I don't think Pikmin 4 was satisfactory to a lot of people. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. You can't please them all. And with Hey Pikmin, it seems like they pleased none. And then, of course, Real Pikmin 4 was announced on the Switch. Submerged Castle. So, in Pikmin 2, the main gimmick of the game is that you go underground to these caverns. Time stops, the in-game day timer stops, and you have all the time in the world, but only a limited number of Pikmin to complete these dungeons. And some of them are really long, some of them are really short, some of them are really hard, and some of them are really piss baby easy. Most are somewhere in between. Submerged Castle is somewhere in between. But it has this reputation for being terrifying, which it is at a first pass. I don't think its reputation is unearned, because it is the most daunting, I would say, going into it for a first-time player, because you're only allowed to bring in blue Pikmin, which is cool that they can survive in water. They're the only ones that can swim. However, they are weak to poison and electricity and fire and explosions. And the game has a lot of those in this dungeon that you can only bring the blue Pikmin into. And normally you have other Pikmin to deal with those, except explosions, you have to dodge those. But other than that, you normally have other Pikmin to deal with those other obstacles, but you have to use your blues. It's like a pretty, actually really interesting and fun challenge for people who have played the first two games up to that point. To like really test their skills and to test their resolve. The resolve part especially comes in when you get to the other main gimmick of the dungeon, which is that if you take more than 5 minutes completing any individual floor, this thing will fall out of the sky called a water wraith, and it's.
I just had to open my mouth! I just had to say it!
For a first-time player who has never played the games before, it's the most terrifying thing you will ever experience in your life. Yeah, he basically has two rolling pins that he rolls around on, and any Pikmin that get under there are crushed, and you can't kill him, you can only avoid him, and he roars like crazy, and he has this music. It's extremely well done, the Water Wraith. The thing is, the dungeon isn't that long, right? It's only 4 floors and then the boss floor. And then the boss is piss easy because you get the purples, and they make the fight a joke. Like, that's his weakness, is that he's afraid of the purple Pikmin. And you can't take any purple Pikmin in, so you have to get to the 5th floor and use the candy pop buds and make some purples, and then it's like, there it is. Crushing glitch. In Pikmin 1 on the GameCube only, there was this glitch where if too many Pikmin were in one little area and they were underneath something, whether that would be an object or an enemy or an environmental aspect, environmental detail, like a bridge, like something like that. And there's like there's a lot of them. Sometimes they would get pushed under the floor out of bounds and then just die en masse. And it was really annoying, and they patched it out in the Wii port, and all subsequent versions have had it patched out, and it is a non-issue anymore. But it was so prevalent, I guess, in that original game, that it became a medic and has never died. And you may have heard of it. Pikmin AR. This is, of course, referring to Pikmin Action Replay, which is the Action Replay codes that you could get for the first 2 Pikmin games on the GameCube back when Action Replay was, a thing back in the GameCube, and the sort of the DS era was sort of its heyday. You could get things like Pikmin that, can do anything you want. They can go through any hazards, they're immune to all of it, they kill things in one hit, they're really big, they're really small, you're really big, you're really small. Enemies are all dead when they spawn in, or you can make it Kaizo. Just whatever your heart can dream up, Action Replay can make happen. That's how I got to New Moon Island when I was 7 years old. And you can too. Louie's Dark Secret, of course referring to Pikmin 2 with Louie, the secondary character, the second captain, who you control and controls part of your squad, and you can squad up and bird up. It's one of the best gameplay innovations in the series, is having an extra captain that you can just multitask with. It's great. It really changes the game, especially in caves. Now, Louie's Dark Secret is of course referring to the lie he told to the president before the game began, where on his first assignment as part of Hocotate Freight, the intergalactic shipping company that Olimar, our protagonist, works for, Louie on his first assignment was tasked to bring a bunch of gold pick carrots to a buyer. Unfortunately, in his story, a bunch of ravenous space bunnies ruined his plans, and they ate the carrots. And that's why Hocotate Freight is now deep in debt. Of course, at the end of the game, if you complete all of the challenge mode courses without losing any Pikmin, you unlock a cutscene that reveals the fact that Louie actually ate all of those carrots himself, that bastard. Thus, Louie is responsible for the entire events of Pikmin 2. So for that, although Olimar would be probably ungrateful and Louie himself would be like, ah, shit, this stabbed me in the back once he got left behind on the planet, I'm like, oh my god, thanks so much, Louie. You just gave me one of my best games that I've ever played. Where is Pikmin 4? Don't worry about it. It's coming. It's right around the corner. Now, of course, this was the question that was asked time and time again ever since like 2015. No, 2 years after Pikmin 3, and there had been no word on a follow-up. And they're like, oh, hey, Pikmin. And they're like, no, where is Pikmin 4? Come on. Where is Pikmin 4? People were getting real antsy. They re-released it on the Switch. Where is Pikmin 4? And they finally announced it, and they did gameplay, and everyone clapped, and everybody clapped. Daz Reviews gave up on Pikmin, of course, referring to Daz Reviews, the forebear to Quentin Reviews. However, instead of 5-hour-long videos on Drake and Josh, he does 5-hour videos on Okami. He talks about all sorts of video games, and he was going to do Pikmin, but he got really frustrated with the fact that none of the Pikmin or the enemies in the game, or even the main characters, ever came out as gay. And that lack of representation really hurt, his enjoyment of the series, which I do understand. I can empathize with that. I did struggle with that on my own. Like, even though these Pikmin are forming a rainbow, where is the rainbow inside? Right? And so as a gay man, I just want to say, Daz, it's okay. I get what you're going through with this, but, if ever you wanted to come back to the series, I think there's a lot to get out of it if you can just accept that it's not one of those games that will have a lot of overt representation. Like, of course, all the Pikmin are gay, but that's only implied. And you just kind of got to make your peace with that, There's a lot more to enjoy, if you can. And if not, nothing's stopping you from going out there and, killing it on your own. Maybe making your own game that has all the gay Pikmin you'll ever need. Or a sort of analog, like how they did that, like, Super Monkey Ball follow-up that was more in the vein of, like, classic Super Monkey Ball instead of, like, Banana Blitz. But they couldn't infringe on the copyright, so it was called something entirely different that I don't know what it is because I've never played it. But I love Super Monkey Ball. Anyways, bread bug memes. Listen, it's the bread bug, dude. I mean, what can you say about him that hasn't already been said? He's just this guy that walks around and he looks so fun doing it, and he's dragging stuff back to his lair, and it's just bread bug, dude. You gotta get with the bread bug life. If people were still saying get that bread, I would say get that bread bug. But they're not saying that. so I won't. Actually, fun fact about the bread bugs. Did you know that the dwarf bulborbs aren't actually bulborbs? They're actually a species of bread bug that has evolved to mimic like the red bulborbs and the orange bulborbs. Yeah, that's like clarified in the Picklepedia and like the enemy credits at the end of the first game. They're not real bulborbs. They're just bread bugs that mimic for survival's sake. Actually, the only one of the dwarf bulborb enemy types that is an actual grub dog is the dwarf bulbear, which Olimar does state is a third stage in the spotty bullbear's development process. So that one is a true grub dog, but the rest are just mimics that just hang out. And you see this, it's actually really interesting. You see this in the gameplay where the bullbear will actually interact with the dwarf bullbears and they'll follow behind him and they'll have a real relationship that they form. Whereas the dwarf bulborbs will only just hang out with their, their older, their larger cohorts, right? But they won't actually ever interact. In fact, the big bulborb is sleeping most of the time. In the first game, they did interact, but it was more of like an intra-species interaction where the large bulborb would sleep during the day, and it would benefit from having the daywalker sort of dwarf bulborbs around, because whenever they would get attacked by Pikmin, they would yell and wake up the big bulborb, right? And that was like a gameplay mechanic, and that kind of made it you had to strategize, and so the bulborb benefited from having them around, and that's why it allowed them to mimic it like that, as opposed to just noshing on them. Anyways, the bread bug memes are everywhere. I can't explain meme culture. Do they want me to explain meme culture? You can't fucking do it. It's just like, what's this weird esoteric thing that you find that looks kind of funny and it's doing some cool shit? That's just what meme culture is. Like, you can't, and whenever you try to distill it down, the meme dies or you fail wildly and you just get clowned on, right? Like, you can't predict what's gonna become a meme, and you can't predict how long it's gonna last, and you certainly can't artificially create one yourself. People saw the bread bug in the first Pikmin game in the Forest Navel, and the second one in the caves with the giant bread bug and all that shit, and they thought he was funny. They thought he was funny, so they put him in some goddamn memes. That's all you need to know. He's got a funny name too, but you really can't distill it. Anyways, Pikmin 256. This is of course referring to the common Atari glitch where if you get to level 256, then your game will just like reset but also crash or break. The same thing happens when you get 256 yellow Pikmin in Pikmin 2. They will short circuit your game and your console, and you'll be left with nothing. Olymin is the bad ending for Pikmin 1. And when you fail to get all the ship parts you need to take off and go home, your ship crashes, and then a bunch of Pikmin will take you back to their onion, and you will sprout as a Pikmin, fully enslaved into the Borg. This is taking a long time, and I'm only on sublevel 2, so I'm just gonna speed it up. Pikmin New Fortune, don't worry about it. Scruffy, purple Pikmin, they have these little furry like hairs on them that allow them to feel in the dark because they're cave-dwelling Pikmin. Exclusively for the most part, and so sometimes you'll just call them Scruffy because they got these hairs and they're kind of, they're kind of rotund is what I mean to say. Pikmin. Now this is of course referring to the fact that while Daz Reviews did give up on Pikmin for not having any overt gay characters, they do have overt bisexuals, which is of course the Pikmin themselves. Which I don't want to get into this discourse, but I think it's perfectly fine to say that bi people are gay, or for bi people to call themselves gay. I think that is just fine. And so if Pikmin is bisexual openly and is like, I'm so gay, I'm like, love that for you. And that is not diminished by them having a partner of the same sex or the opposite sex. They are always just as bisexual as they were when they weren't in a relationship at all. And you can say, I'm so gay right now, or I'm so straight pilled, or like this is so like queer coded of me to do, you know, like, and you're like walking around and you're like, but like the most important thing is that you feel secure and comfortable within yourself, because that is where the true pride and euphoria of being a queer person comes in. You have my support. All the love to the Pikmin, the bisexual Pikmin. Formidable Oak. This is the last level of Pikmin 3 and is oft considered to be one of the greatest achievements in level design by many in the Pikmin fandom, and also just many in like the video game fandom and game journalists all around. Once they got to this level, journalists were like, yeah, dude, that's a pretty sweet level. Let's talk about it some more, make some content about it, and monetize the shit out of it. And they do, and they have been, and it's been working, because the Formidable Oak is just a well-designed level, dude. And has a pretty banging boss at the end of it, with the Plasm Wraith, which swallowed Olimar. As we would all like to do one day. Yeah, Pikmin are based on a real flower. This part is actually true. They're based on this flower that stems out of a leaf and grows parasitically on wood logs, right? And they take over the wood log, and eventually the whole thing becomes part of this sort of flower ecosystem. I don't know the exact scientific name for the flower, just because I don't speak Latin. I don't care to learn Latin. But it is really interesting that it's based on sort of a parasitic flower that they just sort of went with and took into a cool, fun direction. That lovely Miyamoto. All right, data files. These are dropped by Olimar throughout Pikmin 3, and you don't know who they belong to, but like, yes, you do. If you played the first two games, you totally know. You recognize his voice. You recognize his voice from the Picklepedia. You know, he's very analytical, but he also has sort of like a homey edge to him where he's like, oh, like fun too. He's like a fun guy. And you collect those, and it's part of your like completion incentive, And they offer information about like the wildlife and the fauna and the flora and tips and tricks about gameplay. And it's a really great way to engage new players, although I do think they're a little overbearing, especially because you have to automatically read them once you pick them up. But a good way to get people invested in the series. Who may not have a lot of experience with it. I Know Uta, which is a song that was commissioned for the first Pikmin game that was used in promotional material and became a surprise hit in Japan. It was on many year-end lists and charted in Japan. The lyrics are really interesting if you either know Japanese, which I don't, or find a translation into English. It's a really lovely song, and a good translation in English never fails to bring kind of a tear to my eye, because it's written from the perspective of the Pikmin as they espouse their undying devotion to Olimar, you know, profess their appreciation for him while asking for nothing in return, basically. It's a song essentially with selflessness at its core, and it's really sweet, and it just tugs at my little heartstrings. My heartstrings are tugged at you like you wouldn't believe. Ujadani. Now, Ujadani or Uyadani, I don't know how you pronounce that. Ujadani, is that correct? These are these little bugs that appear in Pikmin 2 on every 31st, 61st, 91st, 121st day, etc. Ad infinitum. And basically when you attack them, they drop hella nectar and sprays, bitter and spicy sprays, that are probably the best way to grind those things in the game, especially the sprays. Because it takes quite a while to cultivate sprays in the games. Like, you have to collect all these berries, and even then you probably won't get more than 20 individual sprays at a time, and that's being pretty conservative with them. I think I ended the game with 1 bitter spray and 3 spicy sprays remaining. However, if you find them in a drop from an egg, or a matite or something, which is pretty rare, you will just get a full-on spray. You don't even need to collect 10 berries to get one. You know, Ujidani are the best. However, it's recommended that while you kill them fast, because they can poison your Pikmin if you're careless about it, you also collect the sprays as you go, because there is a limit to the amount of drops that can be on screen loaded at any one time. Right, so say you have 30 nectars, sprays all over the ground, but there are still plenty more Ujidani to kill. They'll stop dropping shit until you get more. And so yeah, they're kind of they're a pretty rare phenomenon. They only appear in the one game, and they're not mentioned in the Picklepedia, so a lot of people don't know what they are or that they even exist. And their name comes from the e-reader cards. They had an e-reader card, which was a peripheral for the Game Boy. I'm talking about this one now. The Game Boy Advance, which had a lot of integration with GameCube games and especially Game Boy Advance games. Pokemon had probably the most in-depth integration with the e-reader, which is funny because the e-reader was also a massive commercial failure. No one bought it, and no one bought the cards. It was an expensive peripheral, and then you had to buy the cards with it too. It's like a big hassle, and like it wasn't marketed well, and it was a big flop. It only lasted for a little bit, and now they're big collector's items, and all the information about them, I believe there have been some that have been lost to time, but most of the information about them has been archived online, and people have like dumped their ROMs or recreated them in like emulators and stuff like that, so you're not really missing out on anything. They were basically a precursor to what Amiibo have become now, and that sort of niche that Amiibo fills, that sort of toys to game content. Character D. There was initially supposed to be 4 playable characters in Pikmin 3. That is why you look on the D-pad on Pikmin 3 and you see an open slot for another captain. And that was supposed to be Character D, which many have assumed to be Olimar or Louis, or how fun would it have been if the President came back as like another post-game sort of unlockable playable character, just work even more efficiently. Yeah, but most people assume it was Olimar, because Olimar has a role in the story. And you can play as Olimar and Louis in the side stories, but Olimar was meant to be playable as a playable captain in the base game, but just wasn't integrated due to them going in a different direction with them. It was also taxing on the hardware to keep track of 4 captains at one time. Unseen Pikmin colors in Pikmin 1's best ending. Now, the happy ending, which is not hard to get in Pikmin 1, at least not in my opinion, sees Olimar lifting off and flying home with his completely 100% rebuilt Dolphin spaceship. And behind him he sees a bunch of Pikmin onions leaving the atmosphere of the planet, implying that they are going intergalactic, which is awesome for them. And they're spreading their spores to all the vast reaches of space, not unlike the Flood. And in doing so, you see one onion that's like a blue onion, like a standard blue onion, and then you see a bunch of like other colors, like a black onion, and a pink onion, and a green onion, and a purple onion, which is particularly funny because they got purple Pikmin in the next game, and they didn't even get their own onions. they just rode in the spaceship. But you see all those, and you're like, oh my god, there are so many Pikmin types waiting to be uncovered. And then the only one of those colors that have come to fruition since then have been the purple Pikmin, which didn't even have an onion, and then the pink Pikmin, where their onions looked like this. So it's like, what are those other onions? It's obviously canon, but like, what are they? Bomb rocks do more damage if eaten by an enemy. This is just a strategy for in-game, so the more you know. And Pikmin turn into onions. Now, this is a theory on the evolutionary biology of Pikmin. There are working theories that maybe the Pikmin are an extension of the onion, and the onion itself is the hive mind that reproduces asexually and also houses the most vital components to keep creating more Pikmin. Meanwhile, the Pikmin function as eusocial insects, similar to ants, wasps, and eusocial spiders. But people have theories that instead of the onion being the center of all Pikmin life, kind of like the queen bee or the hive or whatever, maybe the Pikmin one day, if they survive long enough, grow into an onion themselves, like the Lumas in Mario Galaxy. They will eventually turn into launch stars or power stars or regular stars, or even galaxies. And it's like, oh my god, this is what Pikmin do? Who knows? But like, obviously it's just a theory. It's hard to study their life cycles in depth because they're not real. So we're limited to what little we are actually told about their life cycles and shown in the games, which is all early stages. The most you'll see of one individual Pikmin is however long you decide to play Pikmin 2 for, which, I mean, they're not going to change. So don't do it for that reason. They're not programmed to change. Olimar was going to make a cameo in Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. This is true. This was in the works. Obviously, Pikmin 1 had just come out, and they were going to have a cute little thing like Nintendo Land, where I think in that same game, Geno from Mario RPG made a cameo, and there were a few other cameos. The Mario RPGs really like to have fun little cameos of other characters from their series, from other series. It's just a fun little like nudge nudge wink wink moment. And there was one planned for Olimar, but it was cut because the developers were homophobic. King of Bugs. This is Louie. Of course, this is the treasure name for Louie. When you take him back, and you get it back after killing the final boss in Pikmin 2, and you finally rescue Louie, and his grandma finally stops fucking emailing you, guilt-tripping you into finding her goddamn grandson. The freak fucking McPoyle family that they are. Louie has always had a unnatural connection with bugs and insects. His grandma used to take him up to like a hill where he would play with the bugs and talk to them, and then they would eat them. And he has a particular love for eating bugs and cooking them and turning them into fine cuisine, haute cuisine, right? And that's kind of his thing. And so when you find him, he's the king of bugs. He was sitting atop the Titan Dweevil, which is of course another bug. Crazy fucking ass bug that looks like the giant spider from Kong Skull Island. And then in like the Olimar's notes for the treasure, he talks about how Louie insists that they call him the King of Bugs, as well as something else that I think is mentioned later on. Treasure localization changes. Honestly, this one kind of bums me out because I do think it kind of hurt the experience a little bit. Just because it was super fun playing Pikmin 2 to like be walking around and there's a Duracell battery, or a can of Skippy's peanut butter, or a 7-Up bottle cap. You know, those fun little things where it's like, oh, A, that's Earth, so obviously this is Earth, but like, where are the people? But also, B, it also takes the impact out of like seeing it for the first time. It's like kind of like a comedy moment that lightens the mood. And if you just see a regular battery, just like a super battery, it's not gonna hit the same way as seeing a giant looming Duracell D battery stuck in the snow. And there's one that's like just like a pun on like a D battery, like a Duracell. It's like, I think it's called a durable cell. And it's like, obviously that is a pun about Duracell and like how they got their name, and now it doesn't even work anymore because they changed it. Obviously they changed it in the re-release on the Switch because of expired brand licenses that they didn't feel like renewing. I don't blame them for that, but it always sucks when re-releases are kind of watered down in that way. Like, they've never re-released Northern Exposure on streaming or anything like that because all the music licenses that they used in the show have expired, and the producers and the creatives at the show have been so unwilling to budge on those, but the licenses are too expensive to renew, so they've just never fucking renewed them. And like, you don't see that same problem with Dawson's Creek because they were just like, well, I guess we'll just get rid of the music and just use generic backing music instead. But like, imagine if they did that with Degrassi. Like, imagine like the cosmic earthquake that would be if they removed like Shake It Out from, you know, Claire's whole scene in bathroom that I don't want to get into. But like, it's no, that just stands out to me because it's like the funniest use of Shake It Out that I've ever heard in any media. Like, you see it in other shows and it's like, oh, a character is departing and we'll never see them again. It's really big and emotional, and it's just like Claire in the bathroom doing unmentionable things. It's like, why this song? for this scene. Arboreal frippery. In Pikmin 2, you can find a leaf as a treasure that is supposed to be modeled after a Japanese maple leaf, but very obviously looks like pot. And in the re-releases, I believe they changed it to a red color instead of the green color to avoid any confusion with a marijuana leaf. One of those funny little things that's just like a cultural difference, I guess. I don't know, it's probably ubiquitous in Japan as like, this is what a Japanese maple leaf looks like, and everyone knows that. But I mean, I gotta imagine they smoke weed over there too. I mean, do we really think Miyamoto's never fucking taken a hit looking at the shit that he's made over the years? No, that man has definitely smoked. So they knew what they were doing. Let's just say that. So, Hocotate and Kopai have bad political relations. Now, Hocotate is Olimar's home planet, and there he is wildly successful working for Hocotate Freight, and he raises a family, and they seem to have a semi-functioning economy. They have loan sharks, they have wildlife and indigenous fauna of their own. It's a whole planet, right? It's a whole little world. And then Kopai is a neighboring planet, and they have exhausted all of their resources, and the plot of Pikmin 3 is that they are starving to death. That is Alf's home planet. That is where he and his crew come from. And it's like, if Kopai is starving, have they not been getting assistance from Hocotate? Why haven't they been getting assistance from Hocotate? What's happening? And so eventually they just go to PNF 404, but they like kind of stumble upon it. Like, it's not the first planet they go to, it's like the last one. They kind of, it's like they just by chance happen to have sent a team to PNF 404 at the outskirts of their system, and they didn't really know what was in store for them. Maybe Hocotate was withholding that information from Olimar's expeditions. And it's like, do you have bad political relations? What would this sort of Game of Thrones look like? Right? It's interesting. It would actually make for a great HBO series. Space bunnies. So, space bunnies were the things that Louis made up that ate his carrots. But I don't know, they also like totally exist, right? Like, that didn't just come out of nowhere. The president's not that stupid. Obviously there are real space bunnies out there if you look for long enough, right? And if you have a stash of golden pick carrots, maybe they'll even find you. Lost Logs creepypasta. See my Everyman Hybrid video for information about creepypastas. This one is specifically about Pikmin and falls into the same category as Ben Drowned and Lavender Town Syndrome, and I have said my piece on that. Alright, Mamutas, the very famous Pikmin enemy type that has been in the series since Pikmin 1 and returned in Pikmin 2, have the onion pattern on their arms. So in the first two games, the onions looked very different from what they look like in Pikmin 3 and 4. And they had this sort of belted pattern around their, I guess, their waists or whatever. They were cinched for the gods, and the pattern was really cunt. Did a lot to enhance sort of the design by adding this sort of geometric element that was like, ooh, mysterious, right? And Mamutas have this same pattern on their arms. Now, Mamutas are kind of a unique enemy in that they don't actually harm your Pikmin, they just plant them. They have a real gardening fetish, and whenever, you know, someone's getting in their way or a Pikmin's out and about, they're just like, nah, let me get you down on the ground! This, of course, has led to the idea that Mamutas are not enemies, or even maybe animals, because they are, of course, from an unknown animal type. Perhaps they are sort of an extension of the onion ecosystem or species that is involved with cultivating the earth. They seem to have a particular appreciation for aesthetic and gardening that looks nice. That is why when you're in Pikmin 2 and you get to those sublevels that are like little rest areas, or maybe they have like some creeping chrysanthemums in them, then you'll have a Mamutas there, and it's like, oh, this is their little hole, and I'm just breaking into their home and destroying them for money. Scrapped blue and yellow Bulborbs for Pikmin 2. Okay, staying on the topic of enemies, the red Bulborb was originally classified in the first game as the Spotty Bulborb, to differentiate it from the Spotty Bulbear. They had the sort of the spotty sort of first word and a different second word in their name to differentiate them. That was all you needed, because there was only those two types of grub dogs, and then the Emperor Bullblacks at the end of the game, as well as water dumples. But we're not talking about those. However, in the second game, they introduced other types of Bulborbs. They introduced the hairy Bulborb, and most importantly, the orange Bulborb, which was orange. And so in order to differentiate the spotty Bulborb from the orange Bulborb, they renamed it, or reclassified it rather, to the red Bulborb. Now in Olimar's notes, he comments on this and says that the discovery of other Bulborb species, plural, has led to the reclassification of the spotty Bulborb as the red Bulborb. Now this implies that there are more varied colors of Bulborbs than just the red and orange varieties. And digging through the files, you can find evidence for yellow and blue Bulborbs that were scrapped from the game. And this would sort of go further to build out the world of the Bulborbs and sort of further justify this reclassification, even though I just called them the red Bulborbs the entire time, because just look at them. They're red. And, you know, we had the hairy Bulborbs, but it's not like they're called the white Bulborbs. Their dwarf companions, the breadbug dwarf companions, are called the snow Bulborbs. They're not called like the white dwarf Bulborbs, in the way that there are red dwarf Bulborbs or orange dwarf Bulborbs. Wow, this is hard to say. Bulborb, dwarf, orange, Bulborb, orange dwarf Bulborb, dwarf orange Bulborb. I think that's how you say it. Imagine saying that. imagine saying that. I don't have to. But anyways, they're not even called like the white Bulborbs. They're called the dwarf snow Bulborbs and the hairy Bulborbs. Even though they are white, they're more so about their physical features or the environment they're found in, right? Pikmin 4 might have meant Hey Pikmin. Now, this is kind of what it sounds like. There was a lot of like buzz about Pikmin 4, and there was like some ambiguous statements by Nintendo about, oh yeah, we're working on Pikmin 4 right now. And then, you know, a couple years later it was revealed, Hey Pikmin, you know, and that was released, and they're like, where's Pikmin 4? But like, yo, what if that's what they were talking about? What if Hey Pikmin was supposed to be Pikmin 4, and they saw the backlash to that game, and they're like, no, just a spin-off. Don't worry, y'all, we're on it. So it could have been a very clever optics dodge, because if that was the official Pikmin 4, people would have died on both sides of the camp. I would not be involved. I am not saying that as a threat. I am saying that as a fact. Someone would have died. So good optics there, Nintendo. Your PR is improving. Candy Pop Buds are female onions. Pikmin are advanced pollen. Now, you find the Candy Pop Buds, and in Olimar's notes, he describes that maybe the Candy Pop Buds could themselves be a species of Pikmin, which further ties into the theory that the onions are a sort of advanced stage of Pikmin evolution, if we are to believe that they are all sort of one related entity. But it's a good theory that Candy Pop Buds are sort of like the sexually reproducing variant of the Pikmin. A Pikmin breeds with the Candy Pop Bud, and then the Candy Pop Bud spits out a new Pikmin. That's how it goes, basically. You throw in a Pikmin, you pop out more Pikmin in a Queen Candy Pop Bud, or an equivalent amount of a corresponding color of Pikmin in a standard Candy Pop Bud. That being said, I don't know enough about biology to, or I guess horticulture or whatever, to know how pollination works. So perhaps Pikmin, instead of being like a male-female plant thing, maybe they are advanced pollen and like they're like a pollinator. Or I don't even know. How do plants reproduce? Actually, does anyone know? I don't know. I'm just gonna leave this alone. Whatever. Figure it out. Horticulturist, get on this. If anyone's like a horticulturist, or like a different, like maybe you're like a paleobotanist or a regular botanist, and you study plants, or maybe you just have like a passing autistic interest in plants, then leave me a comment down below and tell me how plants reproduce and how this could apply to the Pikmin series. Okay, this one's kind of a funny one. So, after you defeat, it's either the Raging Longlegs or that giant lobster enemy with the big arm in Pikmin 2. You get the silencer, which is a porcelain doll's head. One of the most horrifying treasures you could find in any Pikmin game or anything ever. Like even in real life, just a disembodied porcelain doll head. No thanks. I'm gonna smash that against the wall and let that evil spirit go back to the depths. Now, silencer original value refers to that treasure. It's called the silencer. Now, it's worth in the game 670 Pokos in the Western releases of the game. However, in the original Japanese release, this disembodied doll's head was worth the horrifying amount of 666 Pokos, which is, of course, the number of Satan. So, yeah, it was a fun little horrifying joke that at the end of one of the longest and most difficult caves in the game, you got the ultimate treasure for beating the boss, which was this absolutely goddamn cursed object. But this was also around the time that Nintendo had a hardline ban on all references to religion in their games, essentially as an act of neutrality. A ban that has only recently been lifted, basically, because of, I don't know, the Belmont's inclusion in Smash and other shit, and it's like, yeah, okay. They've relaxed a lot in terms of a lot of their stuff, is what I mean to say. But so they changed it to 670 for the Western releases to avoid controversy. It's a shame that they did, because that would be absolutely hysterical to just find. It's like, wow, maybe I need to turn the game off. Is this like Ben drowned and I'm gonna be haunted by the cartridge after this? Louie's superhuman abilities. This is of course a reference to both Louie's ability to get to the bottom of the Dream Den, which is the hardest and longest, second longest, but also the hardest cave in Pikmin 2, where you find him at the end of the game to rescue him, and also his ability to communicate with bugs. He has this weird, uncanny, supernatural-esque ability to communicate with bugs that allowed him to hijack and control the mind of the Titan Dweevil. He was the real bad guy all along. I lost 60 Pikmin in that battle, and I only took 30 yellows into the battle itself. And I didn't lose a lot of yellows. The rest was just that goddamn faucet. Electricity scrapped from Pikmin 1. This is of course referring to the fact that in Pikmin 1, the yellow Pikmin did not have the ability to conduct or withstand electricity that they later gained in Pikmin 2 and retained in 3 and the others. In Pikmin 1, yellow Pikmin have their trademark long high throw ability that is very useful for some puzzles. As well as the unique ability to carry bomb rocks, which only they could do in the first Pikmin game, which added a lot of utility to them, both for navigation but also combat, as a yellow Pikmin with a bomb rock was the single greatest asset you could have in combat in Pikmin 1. We know for a fact that in early builds of the game, every Pikmin could carry bomb rocks. It wasn't exclusive to yellows. However, partway through development, the developers seem to have realized that all of the puzzles that involved yellows only came in towards the end of the game, meaning that they were otherwise pretty useless for most of the game. They lacked the immunities to water and fire, as well as the red Pikmin's added combat prowess. So they slapped on the bomb rock exclusivity to yellows, and that didn't really make a whole lot of sense, but gave them a lot of added utility in the final game. Now this comes to the idea that maybe they weren't always that useless without the bomb rocks. Maybe they did plan for electricity to be a major element in the game, similar to fire and water, but then they scrapped it because it was unfeasible or clashed with the direction they were taking the game in, and it was like they painted themselves into a corner and had to find a solution that wasn't just walking across the painting, ruining it. And so what you get is, while you still have a beautiful painting, there are still some minor imperfections on the borders where they had to like tiptoe around it, and they shuffled it a bit, and some of the paint got a little, dislodged or whatever. That's how it kind of feels with the bomb rock exclusivity with the yellows in Pikmin 1. The best option they could have made if that was the case, because it did give them a lot of utility as well as sort of a unique sort of role that was ever changing throughout the series. For this next one, you can find evidence of scrapped enemies in Pikmin 3. A lot of scrapped features actually in Pikmin 3 if you look in the files. One of these was the bubble blowhog, or the watery blowhog, as we saw it in Pikmin 2. While they brought back the fiery blowhog and the puffy blowhog, they did not bring back the watery blowhog, which was a unique enemy that only blue Pikmin could reliably kill in a safe way, adding a bit more utility to the blue Pikmin and making them feel a little redundant in the third game, if I'm being honest. You're fired with a typo. This is, of course, what Miyamoto yelled at an employee when he realized that they had painted themselves into a corner with the handling of the yellow Pikmin in Pikmin 1. So he fired someone and then said, "Fine, I'll do it myself, like Thanos," and fixed everything, and that's why the yellows have bomb rocks, because of Miyamoto's ingenuity. God bless this mess. Jelly float singing. The lesser spotted and greater spotted jelly floats have little songs that they sing in the dungeons of Pikmin 2, basically. You can hear them vocalizing, and they play. It's really weird, scary ambient music that makes them seem a lot more threatening than they are. It's basically a psychological warfare, but it works. It's effective. They're the easiest enemies in the game to kill, that can actually kill Pikmin themselves. So it goes a long way to help them, give them some presence. Purple Pikmin were originally going to be black. Actually, I have some anecdotal experience with this, because as I was playing through Pikmin 2, several people, when they first saw the sort of deep violet shade of the purple Pikmin, they're like, "Oh, so they added the white Pikmin and the black Pikmin." I'm like, "Well, it's violet. It's like a midnight purple almost." But yeah, okay. You see a black onion along with the purple onion in the happy ending of Pikmin 1, which sort of shows the different colors they were thinking about with the second game. And it's like, oh, a white Pikmin and a black Pikmin. That's cool. You have the ones that are found underground and they're monochromatic, as opposed to the colorful Pikmin that you find above ground. That's cool, but they changed it because they wanted to avoid controversy. Poison scrapped from Pikmin 3. It's what it sounds like. There was originally planned to be poison, but when white and purple Pikmin were scrapped, as was the poison. And when you get the multiplayer areas where you can use the purple and the white Pikmin, oh god, do they suck. Are they just watered down, the most watered down version of the Pikmin that you can ever fucking play as. Nightmare. Makes me angry. Pikmin 1 area is based on Miyamoto's garden. Now, while searching for inspiration for the locales of the Pikmin series, Miyamoto took photographs of the gardens of his house, specifically his front and backyards. And in photographing, he got the inspiration for both the game's scale and also the various locales. Of course, you have the impact site, which features an everyday household object in the form of a cardboard box that needs to be pushed by the Reds. Then you have the Forest of Hope, and the Distant Spring, and the Final Trial. I think the only one that wasn't based off of his garden, because I am the strongest champion of this aspect of the first game's development, was the Forest Navel, which was, of course, based off of his garage. Purple and white onions. Was there a white onion in the happy? I think there may have been. Actually, I think there may have been. I think there was also a white onion scene in the happy ending. So yeah, the purple and white onion. Where are they? We don't know. We know they exist, but just not with us, I guess. Mario 128. This was a tech demo for the GameCube to show off the GameCube's capabilities, where you had 128 Marios, obviously riffing off of Mario 64, 128 independent Marios on a GameCube, literally standing on a GameCube, going around accomplishing different tasks, especially as the terrain itself was changing. And it was basically showing the amount of independent elements that could be working at the same time, independent of each other, to accomplish one sort of unified task, or even multiple unified tasks. It was nothing more than a tech demo, but a lot of people see it as a precursor to Pikmin, and Pikmin as iterating on a lot of the ideas of that tech demo. So it's a really cool piece of like Pikmin development history where they were testing out the technology that they used for Pikmin specifically, while also getting to flex on the GameCube's improved hardware over the 64. Adam and Eve, obviously, Adam and Eve, for anyone who's read the Book of Genesis, went to Sunday school, maybe watched a Lana Del Rey music video. Adam and Eve are central characters in the Bible. They are the first humans ever created by God. Adam was made by God in his image, and then Eve was made from the rib of Adam because God is a misogynist and didn't want her to be her own person. And because of that, Eve rebelled and ate the apple of enlightenment from Satan. And then, they were expelled from the Garden of Eden. But meanwhile, she was totally fucking Lilith. And then they had kids, and then Cain stabbed Abel, and there was the mark of Cain. It was a whole thing. But basically, this all boils down to a fictional story that also exists within this fictional universe, because it is a post-apocalyptic Earth where they were all raptured. Adam and Eve starting the dominoes that later fell to the events of the upcoming Pikmin 4. Louis 8 Bulbman. This is a reference to Louis's notes in the Picklepedia in Pikmin 2, where it is heavily implied that Louis has, in his time, scavenging for food in an attempt to stay alive after being left behind by Olimar, has tasted every species that exists on the planet, getting a wide swath and cultivating recipes out of such a thing. And one of these things is Bulbman. He ate a Bulbman. He went down into a cave and he killed a Bulbman through unknown means. He ate it, which is funny because Bulbman are a parasitic form of Pikmin that are ingested by Bulborbs at a certain stage in their development, and the Pikmin hijacks control of their brain. The Bulborb basically goes to like the sunken place, and the only part of it that like peeks out is like when it's hungry. But the rest is just like a Pikmin. So Louis ate one, so he's got that in his tummy. The Water Wraith's home dimension. This is referring to when the Water Wraith first appears. The ship makes a remark about how its true physical form is anchored in another dimension, and its appearance here, which cannot be damaged, is sort of a facade that allows it to influence it here, and it's only pulled into this dimension when it hears the sound of a purple Pikmin. No idea how any of this works. Maybe it's in the 5th dimension, or the 6th dimension, or the one from Interstellar where they're inside the black hole. But either way, the Water Wraith is not anchored in this dimension, whether that, or maybe it's like a parallel sort of multiverse type thing. I don't know, and I don't really feel like speculating because that's not that interesting. However, there are those that speculate that the home dimension of the Water Wraith is the shared universe of Half-Life and Portal. The events of Pikmin 2 coincide interdimensionally with the events of Half-Life 2 Episode 3 and the Borealis sort of excursion that takes place in that game, because this is also a dimension where that game came out. And the Water Wraith was on board the Borealis, but got so frustrated with that game's lack of release in all realities that it just came over here and started fucking shit up. The president has interdimensional communication. Now, throughout the game, Pikmin 2, you do get emails from the president. And as we know, email is a form of communication that crosses the boundaries of time and space. It's honestly not that unique for him to have that access, but, good for him, I guess. I have that too, but most of my email inbox is, filled up with movie tickets and spam. Now, of course, there was a scrapped bad ending in Pikmin 1 that was removed for being kind of too dark and not really, like, just being too bad of an ending. Like, you don't want to make the kids feel that bad. So basically what happened in this original ending is Olimar's ship failed to take off at all. He didn't crash, it just didn't take off at all. And the wildlife came through and ate him alive. And he was suddenly thrust into the shoes of these creatures that he'd been taking the lives of for granted for so long. And it was a big message about cherishing life and the power of the worker in the worker and boss relationship. So, you know, go SAG, go WGA. Sorry about that, just had to change out the batteries on my ring light. Yeah, I still use a battery powered ring light. I don't have one that plugs in. I've been meaning to get one that plugs in, but I simply cannot be bothered. I have this one, you know, I don't record enough, or I'm not on camera enough to justify like getting like a new one and dropping like money that I could use to feed myself on a new one. So, you know, retweet to scare a Pikmin dev. The light takes like 4 of these. It's pretty expensive, actually. I definitely save money if I just bought the one that plugs in, but oh well. The Lost Toy Box. So in Pikmin 1, there are 30 treasures to get. However, 2 of them are kind of copycat treasures. You have the Sagittarius and the Libra. Both were gifts from Olimar's kids. And they're just decorative lights that go on the side of his ship. Named after his kids' astrological signs. However, the memento from his daughter was actually supposed to be a toy box. That is the Lost Toy Box, as you see here. Time was running short, so while there is evidence of it in the game's files, they decided, well, we already have the Libra, why don't we make the Sagittarius as well, right? And they will just have a copycat, and it'll be like, oh, both his kids gave him the same sort of gift, little mementos, and it's like the same one, so there's no way to differentiate it. I don't know, it would have added a bit of personality to one of his kids. So, whatever. It's the Lost Toy Box. Crazy things. People really eat this stuff up. They really eat up those little like lost details in games. There's a ship part you get in Pikmin 1. It's basically a gun, a laser gun. It's a ray gun. Olimar mentions that he uses it to fight space pirates, you know? Which is pretty cool. He's the only competent ship captain at Hokotate Freight, so it makes sense that he would have to fight off those pesky space pirates on his various missions. I wonder if they're the same space pirates from Metroid. Ridley rolling up to PNF 404 like... Pikmin carrots are a Pikmin type in the code. This is true of both Pikmin 2 and Pikmin 3. You see them in the Piccolopedia in Pikmin 2, where you throw Pikmin carrots to get enemies' attention. You do this again in Pikmin 3, of course, in that Piccolopedia. And you see their, you get to observe their different behavioral patterns and the way that they interact with Pikmin, usually eating them in some various way. In order to accomplish this and include them in the game like this, while, you know, getting them as an asset out onto the field with an enemy, they had to be coded as a type of Pikmin. This is also pretty easy to keep track of because Pick carrots are the in-universe namesake for Pikmin, and also are just, they look pretty similar. It's just convenient to code them like that, you know, group them all together. The onion's legs are hairy. Dude, I mean, he's Greek, so he might not want to be an asshole about that. Onions grow hair, dude. It happens. Perplexing Pool is on top of a house. This is evidenced by that one cave called the Shower Room, which needs water to be drained in order to be accessed and has a lot of household objects in it. There's also household objects in the submerged castle, such as the rubber ugly, my favorite of the game's various treasures. And yeah, it's evidenced just by that. Like, why would there be a shower room in the wild, right? I mean, it's such a weird scale anyways, and there's these weird formations, including one that's like like a metal, what do you call that, like kind of like construction metal that you use to like make houses and roofs out of. It's like that kind of metal just poking out of the ground in the perplexing pool. And you see all these like stone formations and all that kind of look like ruins. So it's obviously like a house. And I'll do you one better actually, because I also think the Wistful Wild has like some residences in it too. Maybe like a summer camp, because like at the bottom of the Dream Den you fight the Titan Dweevil in a standard kitchen sink. It's just in a kitchen sink. You know? Why would that be there if people weren't living there? And of course we will get that photorealistic, perfectly preserved house in Pikmin 4, which raises many questions for me. For instance, why is it so clean? How long have all the people been dead? Hey, Pikmin was a dream. This one is just cope. Louis was neglected as a child. He was raised primarily by his grandmother, who took him to the hill and, you know, observed him as he played with bugs, and they would eat bugs together. They were little fucking McPoyle freaks, but his parents were nowhere to be found, and his grandmother only sends the odd message until she gets really worried about his lack of a response. And yeah, he doesn't seem to be like that close with his family. That's kind of weird, and it's kind of sad actually. The grandmother messages really kind of endeared me to Louis, because it's like, oh, this guy has a family and we left him behind. I feel really bad. I feel really awful for this poor woman. And he's telling me about his life, and it's like further characterizing him. It's like, oh my god. Oh, ma'am, I am going to bring him home. I assure you that. There is no force on heaven or earth that will stop me from bringing your grandson home. Then she started sending him like food made out of bugs, and I was like, ew. How was Louis with Olimar in the side stories if he was left behind in Pikmin 3? Well, we rescued him. If you recall, we rescued him from the Titan Dweevil, so that's just a non-issue. He got rescued, and you know, he decided to stay with the company. God knows why. I would have sued for everything they were worth and more, but I guess he just loved the work that they were doing. He loved being with the Pikmin. I think he felt a really strong kinship with them, and there were so many giant bugs for him to eat. That's why he was with Olimar. The same pattern around the Smoky Prog egg is in the Plasm Wraith arena. True. Now, as we all know, the Smoky Prog is a corrupted larval form of the Mamuta, right? And the Mamuta fills a very specific and weird niche within the Pikmin and PNF 404 biosphere. I don't think it would be that absurd to say that a corrupted larval form could evolve into a corrupted adult form. So with that logic, I think it's pretty safe to say that with some authority and clarity of mind that the Plasm Wraith is an adult Smoky Prog, and that's why he's so hard to beat. But it's funny that he's actually harder to beat when he's just a kid. Olimar is neglecting his children, this is true, but it's also not his fault. You know? Like I don't know that I want to like put all of this pressure on him to be Dad of the Year when he crash landed and on a foreign planet and was you know, constantly thinking of getting home to his children and his wife, providing for them, and just like seeing them again as the only thing on his mind. And the minute he makes it home on his beautifully rebuilt spaceship with all of those little, you know, tchotchkes that they made for him in tow, he gets shipped right back to just pay off his company's debt. And at least now he has email to communicate with them. But like, come on. And then, you know, you're gonna fault him for going back to PNF in Pikmin 3? I think the fuck not. You know? He's gotta put food on the table. He is a provider for this family, and he has a job to do. And we know for a fact in one of the emails in Pikmin 2 that even though he got a raise, his wife, gambled it all away in Vegas. So he's still got to work. What else is he gonna do? This man will never know peace, and you people will never give it to him. You disgust me. Dad, you need to work less. Shut up. Get a job. Stop trying to be my therapist. This is what Olimar said to Louis when Louis was counseling him about the inadequacies he feels as a father because of the guilt and the pressure that is being put on him by the Olimar's neglecting his children here. Elizabeth, this is what Olimar yelled to his wife over email when he was really having a hard time emotionally breaking down over the inadequacies he feels as a father, and it was really heartbreaking. It was one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the game, but he got through it, and they're a stronger family for it. It's a rough life being a intergalactic freight truck driver. So it's tough, man. It's tough on the family. I am so very tired. This is the breakdown line that Olimar recited to his children. At the end of one of his long and perilous expeditions. Even thinking about it now just gets me right in my heart, because I'm like, oh, what a thing to admit, right? To your family of all places, of all people, to admit that to them. I am so very tired. It's really feeling the full weight of your personal demons, and oh god, it hits you like a goddamn freight train, a Hokotate freight train. Pikmin reincarnation. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. This isn't a bit. I genuinely have no idea what this could be referring to. Do you know? Let me know. But Pikmin reincarnation, I'm not even gonna guess. I'm not even gonna guess at that one. So, the Water Wraith ended humanity. What it sounds like, it was at Aperture Labs, and came over here and was like, sorry humans. That's why it was banished to the submerged castle, but not before it could flood the earth with deadly neurotoxin. Learn from the best. The Gulix was behind it all. It was the Wraith in its first form. Can I share an opinion? I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because the Gulix has a very clear cell structure that doesn't lend itself well to the sort of more humanoid structure of the Water Wraith. It has a brain and a pearl inside of it, and that's all it's got, right? I could see where maybe seeing two beings composed entirely of water, you see that and you're like, oh, they must be related. But that feels a little bigoted to me, to be honest. I think this is a little... I'm not a fan of this one. Let's move on. Louis is possessed. This, I won't lie, also feels like Cope. In the same way, Hey Pikmin was all a dream feels like Cope. I think people got so attached to Louis as a character that it was really emotionally difficult for them to imagine that perhaps he was the bad guy in that fight with the Titan Dweevil, and that he was the one possessing the Titan Dweevil, and so they made up this theory that Louis was the one actually being possessed, and the Titan Dweevil was the one possessing him, which is just... I don't think that's the case. I think Louis was really mad at Olimar for leaving him behind, and was really high on his King of Bugs bullshit, and wanted to flex. And, it didn't quite work out, but I don't think he was possessed by the Titan Dweevil. I don't think he was. And I don't think he was possessed by anything else. So there are a few here that are just about the Plasm Wraith, and that are just talking about the Plasm Wraith. So Plasm Wraith is the remains of a destroyed onion, the golden fruit is the Wraith in disguise, and the Plasm Wraith is the ghost of a dead human. Now, it can't be all of those things, but it can be one of those things. And my money is on the golden fruit is the wraith in disguise. And do you want to know why I think that? It's because when you fight the Plasm Wraith, he's all alone. And that's gotta be hard, you know? That's gotta be a lonely life. So I think he disguised himself as the golden fruit really just because he wants to be held. He's so touch-starved after all these years in the formidable oak, surrounded by all these data files. In order to, you know, really feel held and feel a connection with another living being, he creates, he segments off pieces of himself and solidifies them and molds them into the shape of fruit because he knows there are people on this earth looking for something just like that. And maybe that golden color isn't the most natural thing in the world when you think about fruit, but it's also beautiful. The Pikmin are planning on betraying Olimar so they can spread across the galaxy with his spaceship. I would put more stock in that theory if we didn't see the onions lifting off out of the atmosphere, emboldened by Olimar, at the end of Pikmin 1. Now, what I will say is very possible is that in the first game, perhaps they were planning that with his ship, and that is why they were bringing all his ship parts back. But then they saw him lift off, and they had this such emotional bond that they realized, we don't need to steal from this man who has brought us all together. We can just do that ourselves. And he kind of gave them the courage and the gusto to do that themselves. So really, while they never asked for anything in return, he gave them something intangible but so important. I mean, people really do come into your life for a reason. Bring something that, you know, you must learn, and we are led to those who help us most grow if we let them. And we help them in return. Well, I don't know that I believe that's true, but Olimar is destroying the ecosystem with Pikmin. This is just a fact. He is killing everything that stands in his way. These creatures have adapted to survive in this world and live off of its rich resources that humanity has left behind. And in comes Olimar and likely a host of who knows how many other people who see this rich world and strip it bare for all it's worth, leaving nothing but devastation in their wake. It's crazy to think about, but that's what being on top is all about, I guess. Living humans, there is evidence for this. It would explain the house, but it wouldn't explain why they let an armored cannon beetle in their house. So, I don't know that I believe in this one. I don't know. There's evidence for it, but like, it's all conspiratorial. And it's like, remember that thing that GLaDOS said at the end of Portal 2? The best answer usually being the easiest one? Well, I'm gonna say that this is probably the worst answer because it makes no sense given 99% of the games and the content within and the very clear subtext of the games. The Hokotate ship is dead. So what they mean by this is that the personality of the Hokotate freight ship, the one that, you know, evaluates all of the items that you bring back and gives them a price and description and works to sell them and has its own personality. The idea is that that personality construct is based off of a real Hokotation who lived and died under the employ of the president and was so good at evaluating items for their money that he actually uploaded their consciousness into a laser disc and uploaded that into the ship, or even better, just built a ship around that very concept that gave him a second lease on life, so long as he had to work for Hokotate for the rest of it. That's what they mean by that. The president was going to be buried alive. Well, we know he was being hunted by the all-consuming black hole loan sharks. So yeah, he probably was going to be. They would only bring him back out if he paid off his debt within the time that, you know, he was alive for, before his air ran out. They don't breathe oxygen. Oxygen is toxic to them. Nitrogen or whatever. I don't know, nitrogen or carbon dioxide, whatever they breathe, methane, maybe until his methane ran out. What if they breathed like gaseous aluminum or whatever. That would be crazy. Yeah, you see that little storyline playing out in the background of the second game. And he starts sleeping under the bridge and makes friends with the fuzzy animals that live down there, and they all cuddle together at night and they're warm. And so he's hiding out from the loan sharks basically by going rogue and going homeless, and making little furry forest friends under the bridge. Now at the bottom of the iceberg, where the water is pitch black, basically Mariana's Trench at this point, Pikmin teaches children that human lives are expendable. Where do we begin? So I mentioned before, with the Pikmin slavery thing, that there are ethical things you could bring up with this. But basically, the crux of this idea is that Pikmin forces you to take the social role of a authority figure, say an employer of some sort, and you have a workforce of expendable, small creatures with individualized tasks that you essentially work the job of a manager doing. And there is credence to this idea that Pikmin prepares you for the life of a bougie. But I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that I'm not convinced that that is the core message at the heart of the Pikmin series, nor am I convinced that anyone walked away with that idea that wasn't going to find that somewhere else. Because there's nothing in the text of the Pikmin series that equates Pikmin and real live living human beings. It's just kind of like a non-argument, right? It's like the people that say that like The Incredibles or Sky High is about eugenics. Like, no, it's not. it's just not. And there's no use debating those points or those arguments. It's like, what points? You know, it's just taking a real world issue and applying it to media made for children in a conspiratorial way just because you can. And I'm actually glad that this brings us up, because this allows me to go on a rant about this kind of commentary that postures as academic media crit that really just uses pieces of media as a prop to talk about a subject that they're actually interested in. So say you have someone making a video about Sky High is actually eugenics, right? They don't actually care about Sky High or the text of Sky High, because no one does. It was a decom from 2005. You know, and the only adults that care about it are only because of nostalgia or because they think it's fun. There's no actual academic criticism to be had with Sky High because it's not a very rich text. Like, it's kind of a nothing text. It's just every superhero trope and every YA trope you can imagine smashed together into a very palatable 90 minutes. Which is why people like it. And not to say that that's bad or that it's bad, but it kind of bothers me when people do this kind of thing, because it's essentially talking past the subject of your video and taking this thing that may have a moral or a message because it's made for kids and discarding that and saying, no, but actually it's about this. Right? It's faux academic, and it completely ignores the text of the piece that you're working with. Sky High is essentially about the power of friendships, hidden talents, and not underestimating people. Pikmin is all about the power of teamwork, and that's pretty much it. that's pretty much the only theme in the games. It's just a game about teamwork using these things that are basically ants, but they're also plants. And so it's funny when it's at the bottom of an iceberg chart when it's like, Pikmin teaches children that human lives are expendable, and everyone understands that it's a joke and it's just for fun. Because, like, no, it doesn't. that's a major stretch and a major reach and completely ignores the entire point of the game. But then you see, and I think this has kind of died down in recent years. It was a big trend in like 2018, 2019 YouTube to have those sort of hot take videos where it's like, this children's piece of media is actually propaganda for the Illuminati to indoctrinate your kids into a worldview where they think that vaccines cause autism. I don't know, dude. I mean, my parents didn't get me the whooping cough vaccine, and I'm still autistic, so I don't know what to tell you. And like, it's a good thing that that has stopped, or at least has slowed down to the point where no one of note or any sort of remarkable status online is doing that now. It was kind of a fad and it's over now, and people have moved on to either talking about social issues more directly or actually engaging with media. Oh my god, shocker. Funny jokes. Pikmin teaches children that human lives are expendable, and Lavender Town's original music forced them to, unalive. But, haha. Anyways, so with that is the Pikmin iceberg. I hope you guys enjoyed this semi-qualified explanation, and I hope you take everything I said 100% seriously, because, I was dead on accurate pretty much the whole way through. And if you try to dissuade me from that worldview in the comments, well, scrap, bud. I'm just here to have fun. Now that we're in the outro, I guess I can talk about life. Isn't that always a good time? Like I said, I finished school and I'm spending this summer traveling. Super excited for that. I'm not gonna say where I'm going or when I'm gonna be there because I don't want to. But yeah, I'm super stoked about it. It's gonna be super fun. And staying in hostels for the first time in my life. So if anyone has any experience staying in hostels, youth hostels, let me know, because I use all the tips and tricks I could get. I got some more videos in the works. I have that one that I delayed out of respect for SAG-AFTRA, and then I have a couple more in the works that I am working on the script for and doing my research for, that are more long boy style scripted analysis. I really like doing those. They take a long time to make, but they're probably the most rewarding to make in my opinion. I like doing these unscripted videos because it's just fun, chill times, and I get to just talk about whatever I want. But I do have a real passion for those real long scripted ones. So more on that in the coming months. What else is new? I skinned my knee recently. Yeah, it was raining here in Manhattan, so I was walking around with my sandals. It wasn't raining while I was walking my sandals, thankfully. But the ground was still kind of freshly wet, and my sandals, I've had them for about 7 years, so they have absolutely no traction on the bottoms of them. And so I was at like sidewalks, when they at like a crosswalk, they'll have like that little slope for people who are handicapped or people with strollers, to like just make their lives easier. I like an idiot put I tried to just put my foot on that while I was walking up, and I slid and I fell and I skinned my knee really hard on the concrete, and that was fun. It's been festering for a few days under this band-aid. I think it might be infected, but I would do something about it, but like I said, I just simply can't be bothered. I think I'm just gonna let that run its course. So yeah, stay tuned for more content. Thank you for watching. Follow me on my social medias where I post dumb shit and like to have fun. Take it easy. Rest up. I hope you have a fabulous summer, whether that is summer vacation when you're in school or summer working because you're an adult and life is miserable. I hope it goes well for you. It is healing, it is restful, it is relaxing, and above all else, it is filled with you subscribing to my channel.
Oh my god, yucky bugs!
Bye!